Are you looking for inspiration, peace, and a deeper connection with your soul? If you're ready to investigate your higher truth, take a deeper look inside, and discover a better way to live, stay tuned for Higher Soul Living, where we ignite your divine intelligence for life. With me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. I experienced a profound spiritual awakening that was so life-changing. It took me into a 30-year career as a metaphysical life coach and breathwork expert. I've mentored thousands of people through their personal challenges, anxiety, self-doubt, and search for meaning. Higher Soul Living is about choosing to live the higher way. It's about taking conscious ownership and drawing spiritual intelligence into your everyday life. Join me on a search for higher truth to find hope, connection, and happiness. The Higher Soul Living Show starts now. Hello everyone, this is Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. I hope you're all feeling fantastic today, whatever time of day that might be for you. This morning in Melbourne, it is dreary. It is dark, dingy. It's 8 o'clock in the morning and I've got all the lights on. It's one of those days, but we have had some beautiful weather, so I can't complain. Today, we're doing Life After Death again because we ran out of time last week, or last time we had our session. But I'd like to do it with a different, angle on it, which is, can we communicate with past souls? So with people that have passed on, that have died, can we actually communicate with them? Well, firstly, to answer that question, I suppose you would have to have some sort of opening at least around life after death. Because if people believe that, no, you just live and die, well, they would say that we can't possibly communicate with those souls. So welcome to part 2. So because we've run out of time, it made me think about all of this. It's a huge subject, really. We could speak about this for a long, long time because life itself and death, they're both part of each other. So I'm going to do a little series on it because I've got a feeling that we're going to end up doing part 3 as well. So this topic can be highly emotionally charged for some people. And for others, there's a lot of freedom within it. There's a lot of possibility. There's a lot of mind opening. And when a loved one passes away, there may be so many conflicting emotions. And sometimes they're all happening at the same time. It can be really overwhelming. You can have things like from anger to grief to laughter and joy, all sorts of things happening at the same time. So it's not an easy thing to process. But when a person is processing, not only grief do they process, but also loss. Because when we lose someone, that loss is such a huge part of us. There's a gaping hole left in your life. It's like this emptiness, a hollowness that feels all-consuming. It's a huge emptiness. And that can take quite some time to negotiate. It really can. And grief sometimes comes in, well, in fact, I reckon it always comes in these assorted, I call them movements, because they're like waves. So it comes in these waves of emotion surface. And often when you least expect it, you can be absolutely fine walking along somewhere and suddenly you get this mammoth wave of emotion that comes up. And it can be triggered by all sorts of things, or nothing really, but it can be triggered by a memory, maybe a song or a picture, by visiting a special place that perhaps you used to attend with that person. So emotions can be triggered by so many things. And I think it can feel different for different people. We're all a bit different, same, but different. But from what I've been shown working with my clients over the last 30 odd years, the passing of a loved one is always, always emotional. In whatever way or whatever type of relationship we had with that person, there's always some type of emotional effect on us, when someone leaves. Still got my croaky throat. Sorry about that. It's taking forever to get rid of the lingering of the flu. Anyway, I'm feeling so energized. It's good. So again, today I'd like to share some client stories with you because they're the truth and I can bring other people's experiences to you. And I'd also like to share some personal experiences that I've had with spirit. And this morning, I'm actually going to start with a personal experience. So this is probably one of the funnier experiences I've had because I've had quite a few funny experiences, and this is one of them. And it goes back some years now. In fact, I think I may have told this story before, but I really like it. So I'm sure a lot of people won't have heard it. So a a really close long-term friend of mine started meeting or started dating this new guy, and she wanted me to meet him. So she invited me for dinner to this local Italian restaurant where I live to meet her new beau, who, by the way, she has since married. So we are going back a bit. So she wanted me to meet him. So she told me that he was really straight. So not spiritual at all, didn't believe in things, just scientific mind, which is great. I mean, I have a scientific mind too, but she said he was very straight. Anyway, so I turn up at the restaurant and meet her new guy. So the three of us were sitting around a table chatting away. And then all of a sudden, a spirit appeared. Now, this spirit was male and he was in absolutely full Scottish dress, full Scottish attire. He was wearing the kilt, the pleated tartan skirt. He had the sporran, that pouch in the front of the skirt. He had stockings, spats, the Scottish shoes, and he was standing directly behind my girlfriend's new man. Now, this guy was a character. He had longish, like to the shoulder, wild, unruly, wavy grey hair. And he was bouncing around all over the place, jigging, dancing. He was a real character. And I knew this spirit was connected to my friend's new man, Richard. So now I thought Richard was Italian. We went to the Italian restaurant. Whether I got it from there or not, I don't know. But I thought Richard was Italian. And he's a short, balding man. And for some reason, wherever I got that from, he was Italian to me. So this Scotsman that was bouncing around behind him was a bit of a mystery to me because they didn't seem to connect up. So I kept telling, as I do, telling the spirit, go away, please go away. Because I tell you, it was really, really hard to concentrate and speak normally with this spirit jumping all around behind Richard. He was like a jolly wild pub drinker from, I don't know, early 1900s or something like that, 1800s late. Don't know, but he was a real character. So when Richard got up to visit the men's room, I quickly told my friend what was happening. And she laughed and she said, tell him. And I said, no way. There is no way. You said he was really straight. And she still thought I should tell him anyway. So when Richard returned from the men's room, once I had built up some courage, because in those days, it was really difficult for me to speak about these things. And it's still strange at times now. Anyway, I told him about the Scottish spirit that seemed to be connected with him. And I described what I was seeing. And Richard was really quiet and he just listened. And I was thinking, gee, he really is quiet. What's he going to say about this? But when I'd finished telling him about this Scotsman, he very quietly said to me, you've just described my grandfather. And I said, but you're Italian, aren't you? He said, no, my background is Scottish. And he said that his grandfather was a real character. He liked his drink and he was known to be wild in his ways. So I thought this was a really great confirmation for me. And I mentioned this in part one, but it's worthy of mentioning again, I think. What I've found over the years is that until the spirit is acknowledged, it will not go away. So it doesn't matter how much I'm distracted by a spirit that comes in. I know, absolutely know it's not going to go away until it is acknowledged. So the grandfather spirit wanted Richard to know that he was there, he was on the other side, but he was still caring and supporting him and having a good time by the look of it. So usually the spirit will come in to let you know something, that you're loved, that they're there, that you're supported, whatever it might be. But there's always some kind of a message that that spirit wants to give you, or the person they're coming through to for that matter, whether you know them or not, funny enough. So I'd never met Richard before, and I certainly didn't know his deceased grandfather. So these things are very interesting. So can we communicate with our loved ones once they've passed over? Now I'd like to move on to a client story. So this client is, I was going to tell this on the last session, but we did run out of time. But I'd really like to talk about how we can set things up a little bit to communicate with our loved ones. So this particular lady is Dr. Lee, Dr. Li Li. She's a doctor of Chinese traditional medicine, and I've known Dr. Lee for a few years. And she called me earlier this year and asked to book in for a session. And she wanted to connect with her father. Now, her father had died about 12 months ago, and she had some unresolved issues that she said she needed clarity and resolution on. And I said to her, wow, I can't promise that she'd be able to connect with her father, but we'd certainly try. I mean, I can't promise someone that we're going to have that connection. And because it depends on where they're at and where their body's at and how much what I call emotional pollution or past blockages are sitting in that person's body as well, because that's all to do with vibration. A lot of blockages, it's a very low frequency, low vibration, and it's harder to raise up to meet that spirit. I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. So on the day of Dr. Lee's session, before we started the session, I could sense a male presence in the room, which I knew was her father. But I didn't mention this to her because I don't like to tell the client. I like it if they can connect to that spirit directly, because it's more meaningful, I think, for them than to me say, oh, your father's here or your mother's here or somebody's here for you and they're looking for it. So I just like to keep it really sort of natural. So her father was present and ready. So now we just needed to get Dr. Lee's vibration high enough to connect with her father. That was my intention. Because of Dr. Lee's work as a doctor of Chinese medicine and her personal practices and her faith, I thought we'd be able to connect in the first session. But you never know, so I never promise it. So I had her breathing away. She was on the mattress. I'd been bringing in a lot of light and energy and working with, I'm going to call it my higher self or soul, and Lee's higher self or soul. So within 10 to 15 minutes, she was in a really nice altered state. Her vibration was lifting. She was becoming nice and high in her frequency. And she told me in the beginning of our session her personal reasons for wanting to connect with her father. So she had a lot of questions about her mother, her husband, her son, an overseas cousin, if I recall, and her work, just where she was going in her work. And of course, she had some questions about her father as well. After about approximately 15 minutes, I would say, she was just started with this incredible emotion, just really great emotion, deep emotion. And she was deeply moved, like really free flowing moving. And I know what that means. So there were a lot of tears. And she said, my father's here. that always, always brings up people's emotion. It is so beautiful. So she really sobbed for quite some time with the joy, the beauty that her father was there and she was connecting with him. So Lee spoke with her father. She asked him the questions she needed answered, and she got a lot of questions answered about her family, which is really was her main focus there. She asked for advice about certain challenging areas in her life. And when the session finished, Lee was very emotional still. I mean, she did a lot of crying that morning. Uh, it is highly emotional. That's all I can say, really. We don't have words. But she was so grateful. She was so grateful. It's such a heartwarming experience for the client and also for me, because wherever the client goes, I'm affected by that too. And my intention is to always, always bring freedom, bring peace, bring joy, bring knowledge, information through that the person needs. So Dr. Lee came for another session and again connected with her father quite quickly this time. So she'd found the clarity, the resolution that she was looking for. And she felt like she had a new understanding of her relationship with her father. She got a lot of new insight into situations that she was currently facing in her life. She felt like she could make better decisions, I suppose she just had more information now. So she felt like she could make her choices in a wiser way, a more diligent way. And at the end of her second session, she felt really relieved. She had the information she was looking for. She felt a sense of incredible peace. She said she felt free, like a freedom. She felt whole. She also felt like she could let go of her father now. And that's an important point there because often when someone has passed over, we don't really let them go. So she knew that he was perfectly okay. He was well where he was enjoying himself. So it gave her this peace to let him go. So she had a lot of gratitude. So these connections with our loved ones bring new understanding and peace. So the grief, the confusion, and the emotional pain that we often feel eases. And it's replaced with a feeling of really deep peace. So you might have a question at this stage. You might be wondering, how on earth does this happen? How on earth can a living person have a connection with and a communication with a deceased person? And it's a really, really great question. If you've been thinking, how does this work? So I'm going to tell you a very simplistic version of how it works, or the way that I understand how it works. Because this has sort of been around me all my life, but it certainly started quite strongly when I became a breath worker 30 odd years ago. So I found a lot of people were connecting with their loved ones that had passed on. So if the deceased person, let's put it this way, if the deceased person is coming in to visit the living person, they need to lower their personal vibration, their vibrational rate. They must lower it. So we all live in vibration. Everything everywhere is vibration, and it has a certain frequency to it. And that frequency turns or tunes into like frequency. They must match. So we get the broadcast, whatever that is, we get the communication. So the deceased soul must lower their vibrational rate, and the living soul must raise their rate of vibration if we're going to have that connection to happen. Because here on Earth, we're vibrating at a much lower frequency. If we were high like them, we'd be able to see and interact in their world, in that world that we call, heaven, which I'm going to speak about on the next session because that's very interesting too. So the deceased soul lowers their vibrational rate. The living soul raises their vibrational rate. And if that soul, I don't know if you're watching the video, but if that soul, you'll be able to see my hands. My if that soul is lowering its vibration, one hand's coming down, and the living person is lifting their vibration, we finally get connection. We get connection. But as I said before, if the body of the living person is holding a lot of density, in other words, there's a lot of emotional pollution or unresolved past issues still in the body, some of that energetic pollution has to be moved. It has to be transformed. That way the body becomes lighter, literally lighter. As we become lighter, we're changing our personal vibrational frequency. We're lifting, we're raising ourselves. So as the person releases levels of that contracted old charged energy, they are raised. The energetic signature of the person is lifted to a higher frequency, just in their life generally. So once we have these releases during meditation, breathwork sessions, they're the two that I really work with the most, and life coaching, and we get new insights, that means that we're literally clearing ourselves out. We are becoming more purified, and our frequency lifts up, and it's permanent. It doesn't go back down again, but it can draw up other issues. That's another whole other conversation. But a person needs to get to a place where they're vibrating at a higher frequency to be able to connect with their loved ones. And that's what I help with. That's why I meditate every single day of my life. I get up very early, somewhere between usually 4:30 and 5:30. I was up at 5 in this particular room today, meditating for our session and my clients today. So I couldn't do this work without doing that, because it's like universal energy, universal light, universal, what do you call it? Amazing brilliance and intelligence that comes through us when we do these practices. And then we can use that to help other people and to help humanity. So I couldn't do it just from my human self. So there's a lot more to this, but I like to keep it simple. It's such a practical thing. It's a matter of lowering and raising frequency. That's what we're working with. And you can learn to do that in your own life once you learn to understand your energy. I've had so many clients over the years connect with their loved ones. It's just beautiful. I can't not believe in life after death because of this. It's just something that is part of my life. But as I say this is only my point of view, and you will have your own point of view. I know a small part of something that is enormous. Maybe it's not all knowable at this level, but I find that really exciting. The more I learn, the more I realize, the more insights I have, the more I realize I know absolutely nothing. So there's so much to learn. Our loved ones, to me, in what I believe, our loved ones aren't gone. They're not gone. They're just living on a different frequency, a higher frequency. If you want to understand, if you'd like to understand more about how to clear contracted energy from the body and how to raise your vibrational frequency, my signature course is called Working with Energy. It's a super course because, it's biggish. Working with Energy. It's how to give a shift, it's called, but it's Working with Energy super course. That's the one to do. And it's on sale right now, by the way, a really good sale on my website. And it's a fantastic course. It's got in there all the things that I was shown from this higher realm when I was going through my breakdown. And I put it all in these courses because I'd been teaching it for years and years and years. And I finally put it down in that sort of form, that format where people can download it and work with that. So it's my signature program. And I share all the teachings that I was shown from the higher dimension, and that I used this information to heal and raise my own body and life 30 odd years ago. It's exactly what I did, and I still use that. It also expands awareness and raises consciousness. So that's on my website, and lots of other courses, meditation course, the breathing shift, all sorts of courses. So my website is Soul Life Connection, SOUL uplifting connection.com. Now, we've only got a few minutes left, and I have another really great experience that I wanted to tell you about, but I think I might have to leave that till next time, because otherwise I'm going to run out of time. So what I might just talk about briefly is, well, firstly, I ask you, can we communicate with our loved ones after they've passed over they've passed over to the other side? What do you think? Have you had some experiences yourself? Do you know someone who has? Because what we often do is dismiss our experiences. We dismiss things. And it's really good to think, okay, people say, did I make that? I must have made that up. I must have made it up. Did I make it up? Well, most likely you didn't make it up. So if you've lost a loved one and you'd like to connect with them, ask them to come in and connect with you. Just ask them. And be as still as you can be and just wait. Just wait. Be still. And don't just do it once. If you don't get that connection, keep asking. But I will say this, if you go into a bit of fear around this, fear blocks the flow. I just want you to know that. So fear is a lower vibration, and it creates contraction, which is the opposite of what you want. You want real relaxation and openness to receive your loved ones. And if you do that, just trust what happens. Just trust. So first thing to raise your vibration that I would suggest you do in a daily practice is like meditation, or learning to really breathe well and putting that into a daily practice. And that starts to raise your frequency. So I've talked to you about my course, which is a great thing to do there. The breath has a lot to do with the cleansing and purifying of the body. So it flushes the body with good, when you flush the body with good breathing, it also brings this clarity to you, an incredible peace, and lines you up spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. It opens your spiritual channel in your physical body. That brings calm and peace and self-control. So good breathers are usually emotionally balanced and stable if they've been doing it, for a long time, and also meditators. So these types of practices bring about an expanded awareness and a raising of consciousness. And all of my courses are on sale, soulLifeConnection.com. So give them a go, see for yourself. And that's about it for our program today. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I wish you many blessings, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Higher Soul Living, where you'll ignite your divine intelligence for life with me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. Join me every second and fourth Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for more information and stories that inspire hope, possibilities, and a greater understanding of who you are at a higher soul level. Together we deepen the connection between the spiritual and the physical aspects of your being and align to your soul's innate intelligence. Metaphysics and the higher soul's journey are my greatest joy. I invite you to join our Facebook community, Soul Life Connection Group, and to visit my website, soulLifeConnection.com, for more information about me, my programs, my coaching, and to tap into your higher soul's intelligence. I hope to see you next time.